Mormons and Hancock County. This is an article written by Joseph Smith's nephew, Herbert Spencer Salisbury. It is prefaced by Illinois Senator Lawrence T. Sherman. It was written in 1916. I just want to revisit this article and clarify that the early Mormon movement was an anti-slavery movement born in the New England territories, and per US government support expanded into the border states where the anti-slavery wars were going on between Missouri and the border ruffians, or what shall we call them. They were Western border terrorists. They were being paid by British oligarchs. Brigham Young and the quorum of traitors were part of these borderline terrorist cult, or ruffians. They are a blood atonement cult that infiltrated Joseph Smith's early Mormon movement to outlaw slavery. Of course, we all know that Brigham Young moved out to Utah after instigating the assassination of Joseph Smith, moved to Utah and quickly made Utah a slave state, declared war on the United States, and the United States had to invade Utah and rescue all the Mormon saints that had been bamboozled into following the terrorists and blood atonement cult of Brigham Young. It's called, I believe now they call it the Lamb of God, the Church of the Firstborn of the Lamb of God. It's the Lori Daybell, Chad Daybell, Lori Vallow cult you find in Idaho, Arizona, and Utah. This cult, blood atonement cult, has nothing to do with the early Mormon Joseph Smith movement, which was anti-slavery, highly political, and honored by the United States government. Stephen Douglas, closest friend to Joseph Smith, provided a territory, a safe territory in Illinois. Would not have been done without Martin Van Buren and his protege, Stephen Douglas, instituting laws in the Illinois Springfield legislature that carved out a space, a free space for the Mormon anti-slavery movement that was right there on the Mississippi. It was a port on the Underground Railroad, as was Quincy and Keokuk in Iowa. Now, what was the Underground Railroad? Well, it was a transport system, a secret transport system done on riverboats where fugitive slaves from the South would escape into riverboats, be secreted by their workers, and then float up the Mississippi River to Ohio, where these fugitive slaves would be greeted by lawyers who would file lawsuits to win their freedom. The fugitive slave laws were a terrorist law in which free black slaves, based on color, free Native Americans, would be kidnapped, taken into the South, and enslaved. And there were certain brave souls, such as Joseph Smith, who provided them safe secret passage on the Underground Railroad ports up the Mississippi, of which Nauvoo was one, providing escaping fugitive free black people or people of color safe passage with food in every port until they reach safety. So I just want to remind all the Brighamite Utah Exmos who are so into condemning Joseph Smith. He was actually an anti-slavery hero who died in service to the United States. And after his death, he was honored with his debts being a congressional bill of relief, absolved, and gave Emma Smith, his widow, relief of all the debts they incurred while they were leading this anti-slavery Mormon movement in Illinois. Just to remind you, Joseph Smith considered Brigham Young and his quorum of traitors his enemy. The Smith family stayed in Illinois They wanted nothing to do with Brigham Young, except perhaps to reconvert some of their poor, tyrannized, blood atonement slaves in Utah to come out to Illinois and join the church that was reorganized by the Smith family. So with that introduction, we will revisit Herbert Spencer Salisbury article with the stamp of approval of the Senator Sherman, outlining the fact that the Mormon movement was an anti-slavery movement that has been attempted to be smeared and concealed by these ex-Mos in Utah, who I don't know what their motives are, but they certainly appear either to be very naive or they're somehow being rewarded very handsomely to spread these kind of smears and fake. So with that, let's get back to Joseph Smith's nephew, Herbert Salisbury, and his article found in the Illinois Historical Society, endorsed by Senator Sherman as being authentic and historically correct.
The content discusses the genealogical history of Joseph Smith, the founder of the Mormon Church, tracing back to his English and Scottish ancestors who were prominent figures in the New England colonies, with connections to the Puritans, Confederates, and Revolutionary War soldiers. The text refutes claims of false parentage against Smith by providing historical records of his lineage. It also delves into the persecution faced by Smith and his followers in Missouri due to their anti-slavery preaching, leading to their expulsion to Illinois, where they established the Mormon Church headquarters in Nauvoo. The narrative highlights the abolitionist sentiments of the New England residents in Nauvoo and their conflicts with the pro-slavery majority in Illinois, drawing parallels to the fate of abolitionist Elijah P. Lovejoy and Joseph Smith, both of whom were killed for their beliefs. The text also delves into the social and political dynamics of Illinois at the time, depicting the abolitionists as outcasts in the predominantly pro-Southern state. The historical accounts presented aim to provide a balanced perspective on the persecution faced by Joseph Smith and the early Mormon settlers due to their religious and political beliefs.